Bangladesh and India, both governments will have a feeling or they will actually have a full understanding of each other's position and expectations.
Right.
So far, our government in the last 4 months, we have not had such meetings.
When this meeting was scheduled, as per ministry officials in India, they have said that they will talk about regular things, regular issues of mutual interest, including trade and everything. Do you think this particular issue of persecution of minorities is going to be on the agenda?
The expectations should be clear about what we want, what we would like to have, and what we can.
Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is set to visit Bangladesh on December 9th, marking the first high-level visit by any Indian official since Professor Muhammad Yunus took oath as Chief Advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh. This meeting comes at a time when the relationship between the two countries is witnessing significant strains. Allegations of Hindu persecutions in Bangladesh are seen as propaganda here. However, it has triggered quite a strong reaction across the border. The Bangladesh embassy in Tripura was attacked, while the Bangladesh flag was desecrated in Kolkata. So how can Bangladesh see this meeting as an opportunity? And what are the issues that are important to us? We'll talk about all that and more. Welcome to Star Viewsroom. I'm Naziba Bashar, and joining me today is Tanim Ahmed, digital editor of the Daily Star. Welcome to the show. So I want to begin with the fact that, foreign secretary level talks are fairly run-of-the-mill affair. Why is this one more significant?
Well, there's the symbolism to begin with. Two foreign secretaries meeting at a time when there are strains from both sides. Mm-hmm. So this is a time when the top two officials of the foreign ministries they're meeting. This will also be the first time that we have sort of this level of meeting in Bangladesh, and sort of like you could say resumption of business as usual between the two countries in a way. This will be significant because then Bangladesh and India, both governments will have a feeling or they will actually have a full understanding of each other's position and expectations.
Right.
So far, our government in the last 4 months, we have not had such meetings before this. There was one meeting between the two foreign ministers on the sidelines of the New York, the UN General Assembly in New York. But other than that, there hasn't been any such meeting, and that too was like an ad hoc meeting.
It was on the sidelines of the...
Yes, also because probably as a makeup, because Prime Minister Modi had to leave early and Chief Advisor Yunus couldn't get a meeting with him, so this was like a makeup kind of thing, right? But this one was scheduled from before. This is a regular meeting and this is happening between the two foreign secretaries. So this should give us, the new government, a chance to clarify their position and their expectations. Over the last 4 months, there has been a lot of finger pointing and wagging, and it's been sort of slightly adversarial at times because our advisors are not known to be the friendliest with India. Right. They've all been very, they've spoken very tough. So this will be the first time that they actually get to understand, get to see what we mean. Whether that was posturing, how much of it was posturing. We also will understand what India's position is. So this is why I think this meeting is going to be significant. Also, this will be a good platform to bring up the important issues or the important things that will be on the agenda.
Right. So speaking of the agenda, actually, I wanted to ask you, what do you think will be on the agenda? Because when this meeting was scheduled, as per ministry officials in India, they have said that, they will talk about regular things, regular issues of mutual interest, including trade and everything. Do you think this particular issue of persecution of minorities is going to be on the agenda when the two top officials speak?
It will certainly be discussed. Whether it will be on the formal agenda or not, we have no way of knowing unless they brief us. Right. So far, one briefing is going on right now, but besides that, it will certainly be a point of discussion. It may or may not be on the formal agenda. So yes, the Chinmoy Krishnodas, his status, what we are doing with him, India's expectations about it will certainly be a point of discussion. Besides that, naturally, there will be the usual suspects like, say, trade and commerce, connectivity, perhaps border killings, water sharing treaties, things like that. If Bangladesh wants, it can bring in other issues as well, introduce new issues that they want to explore, and maybe indicate if it wants to review old deals and agreements. Those could be put back on the table as well. India will also want certain things to be on the agenda, and it's unclear whether these things have already been put on the agenda. So things like, say, transshipment, how much Bangladesh is willing to what extent would Bangladesh be a conduit between India and the Seven Sisters.
Right.
They need reassurance of Bangladesh's cooperation along the border. They need a stable Seven Sisters, the eastern flank needs to be stable, and for that they also need Bangladesh's cooperation to keep it there. So all these things will have to be on the table, and they will probably have to discuss it. Whether all of this will be in discussion or not is one thing, but these things are some of the points that both sides will need to clarify to each other or will need to explain their position to each other.
So in this particular meeting, because there might be many things on the agenda, what do you think is important for Bangladesh to keep in mind? And do you think there is anything that Bangladesh needs to remind India about?
India should perhaps stop thinking as if they have lost a colony on 5th August. So moving away from that, and they will probably get over it, sooner the better, then it will be easier to accept what has happened here. We've always heard that the Indian diplomats and the Indian politicians especially saying that Hasina was a great friend, and so they would never refuse sanctuary to her, which is understandable, and that's fine. At the same time, one cannot help but wonder that they had made a friend with this one person, or perhaps one family, or maybe just one party and not the rest of the country. And it is this friendship that has sort of put such a strain on the relationship between two countries. It is to improve the relationship between the two countries that you make friendships. It is not to save the friendships that you should be straining relationship between two countries. So that has to sink in, and we have to proceed presuming that is the case. Of course, it has to be the case. The two countries are in such position. We are surrounded by India, and we are in such a crucial and a key strategic location that India cannot ignore us, although we are a small country. They have their entire eastern flank. So both countries need each other, and it will not be without each other's cooperation that we can establish stability. And for us, in a lot of ways, we need India's cooperation and help for our benefit, for our progress, and a lot of other things. So that being said, there should also be, at some point of the discussions, something that is not a plain black and white thing of negotiation, but it's something that will obviously bother this government, which is that the initial few months, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, she would have phone conversations and have it leaked. There was a facade of trying to hide it, but it was like, oh, something got leaked. Recently, she's made an official statement on Facebook speech.
And she's also supposed to address an event in New York.
Yes,
I believe.
She did that. While none of our news outlets had access to it, Indian news outlets seem to have had access to whatever she said. What Sheikh Hasina has been saying, her statements are now being used to counter the chief advisor's statements, or government officials of Bangladesh to counter the statements of Bangladesh officials. And Sheikh Hasina is also making wild accusations of genocide against Professor Yunus. For most people here, Sheikh Hasina has fled as a deposed dictator. Many people in Bangladesh already hold her guilty for killing children. And not just one or two, hundreds, probably a few thousand. Her statements are being used to counter the chief advisor's statements or other government official statements. It gives her currency. It also gives her sort of like a legality, like that is makes it right, which is something that must bother this government. That will perhaps, or it should come up in the conversation at some point somewhere, that this cannot go on. I would think that this might be impressed upon them. But other than that, Bangladesh will have to point out that going forward, we need to negotiate as two equal parties. Of course, India is much larger. They will always be better at negotiation, and they will have more leverage on us all the time. But it would be good to remind everyone cooler relations with limited access between the two countries. The advantage that Bangladesh has here is that a lot of Bangladeshis spend a lot of money in India.
Right.
Whether that's for tourism, just tourism, or for
medical care.
Treatment, yes, medical care, quite a lot. A lot of Indians work here, and there's a substantial volume of remittance that goes out of Bangladesh to India. Whatever remittance that is, in India's terms, that's nothing.
Right.
It's a fraction of whatever they have. But for certain pockets of West Bengal, cooler relations with Bangladesh will mean their businesses will go bankrupt, or at least go through very tough times. So that is something they will have to keep in mind. I'm sure they do, but that is something that we should also remember when we negotiate, and we should express it that this is something we know, this is a strength. It's the advantage here is that we are not a vendor, we are the buyers.
Right.
In case of garment and other products where we sell to the world, we're always worried about the buyers, if they will order from us.
Right.
But here we are the buyers, and all you have to do is take your business elsewhere. If you have the money and if you're willing to spend it, then you'll be able to buy it from somewhere. So that is something that we should keep in mind. Even the consular services, visa services have been suspended.
Right.
These things have to be brought up, and this is where general people are being affected, and not just being able to get a better treatment or to be able to buy a few new clothes, but a lot of students are not being able to get their visas to other countries that ask them to apply through Delhi, and they're not being able to do that. The message from Indian officials or Indian offices, whatever they have, is that they're issuing visas. They're not. Many people are losing their academic years, they're losing money elsewhere, and so on. So these things will probably be pointed out. At the same time, as I said before, we will also have to give them proper and adequate reassurance that we will keep cooperating with India as far as the Seven Sisters are concerned.
Right.
We will work towards the stability of this region, and there should be a clear explanation or outlining of the extent to which we will be a conduit, how much transshipment and how much of a conduit we will be. These things have to be clarified and explained in detail. And the expectations should be clear about what we want, what we would like to have, and what we can deliver or give them.
Yeah.
Yes. So I suppose those are the things that should be kept in mind, and we should remind India and also remind ourselves about, while we have expectations, India also has expectations from us.
So it's easy to say that from this meeting we can actually expect an improvement in the relationship between the two countries, do you think?
There should be a thawing of ice, and it's one thing to exchange messages and slogans and threats from across the border. It's another thing to sit at a table and talk to each other.
Right.
And yes, this should be a good platform from where we can actually advance the relationship between the two countries, between the two governments. As for the frenzy in the media, that's another matter. Right? This is a good chance that provides them to say to each other, look, let's not bother about what's going on in this huge disinformation and misinformation campaign. This is what we're doing about it, and this is what we need, and so on and so forth. So they can actually establish, like, yes, all right, so this is what we do on this front, we do this on, and they can decide on something if they have to regarding the situation with Chinmoy, persecution of Hindus. If they want to investigate it, they have media outlets, independent parties come in and investigate what's going on. We can all discuss about it and talk about that. That would be a good platform to start, yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today. For more updates and news analysis, click the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you for watching and stay with the Daily Star.